My name's Andy Barker. I'm from Generative Solutions. We're a new company. Our focus, we should position ourselves in the space between business strategy and technical implementation. And so our focus is very much on delivering business value. And so working with the business owners, with organizations to actually identify how they can most effectively leverage technology to deliver business outcomes. So to us, we're seeing that Office 365 is a very significant piece because it's ubiquitous and across a lot of the areas. We work quite a bit with organizations, so not-for-profit or business for good type organizations, social enterprises and the like. So especially in the not-for-profit space, there's a lot, Microsoft's exceptionally generous with their not-for-profit discounts and donations. But what we find is that so many organizations, they own Office 365, but they have no clue about how to leverage it. At most, they might have some document libraries and some SharePoint sites set up. They've got Exchange, and they're doing that. So that's kind of where we're seeing quite a bit of opportunities. What I'd like to talk about is it's that development at the speed of business. And so my background is in development and database development and multimedia, but really more lately it's been focused very much on enterprise architecture. So looking at really around ecosystems, platforms, how things actually work. And so that's the focus, has been our focus as far as looking at organizations. How do we help organizations be strategic about how they leverage technology? And because cloud technology is moving so rapidly and there's things that are dropping fortnightly, and how do you actually identify the whole plan, the 5-year plans or the 3-year plans are pretty much out the window. We're looking at 6-month rolling windows to begin to identify how do you leverage this. So as you're building a program plan for an organization, it has to be built with the view that some of these capabilities that you might have to develop are going to become available in a very short period of time potentially. And so where's the value? And so it's looking at ROI. It's looking at generating that business value. And so we've developed a few frameworks that really focus on how do we work with organizations to take the capabilities that they need to deliver the outcomes that they need. So what's the gap in between there is where we're actually looking. So we're seeing with the strategy component, we set out actually looking at how do we help organizations develop these strategies to move out. We found pretty quickly, and it's from experience as well, but we found pretty quickly is everybody acknowledges, yeah, our technology is stuffed and we can't leverage it. We're not moving quickly. We're not staying on top. We're not, collaboration is terrible. All those types of things. Everybody recognizes they need a technology strategy or they need work on that, but nobody had headspace to be able to actually focus on it. Budget. The energy is focused on putting out fires because everything is operational and we just need to fix these things. And so it's all this noise that's going on. So we took a step back and actually said, wait a second, why don't we actually be a little bit more strategic about our approach and actually begin to look at how do we partner and work with organizations to help them to think through where the pain points are right now. So let's work with them to silence the noise so that we can then work with the strategy. So it's not stepping away from strategy. Our tagline is align strategy with action. And so we recognize that if you're not strategic about what you're doing, if you're constantly just trying to put out fires, which shadow IT types things or whatever you're doing, rapidly just constantly trying to put out fires, you're just going to go in circles. If you're just looking at the strategy and not doing anything, you're not going to go anywhere. And so it's how do we actually combine that? And so we look at how do we get in there, do things quickly. So most of the things we're looking at with organizations are in the context of 2 to 5 days. How do we get in there and actually do a high-level, end-to-end, across all stakeholders, with stakeholder groups, map out some of the capability gaps that they're actually having. And we've narrowed it down with a framework to be able to do 90 minutes with a group, be able to suss out what the high-level items are, be able to provide back some strategic activities that are high level, strategic activities that need to be focused on, and then some quick wins. Well, we're seeing the quick wins is really with Office 365. I'll be honest, we did not set out to be exclusively Microsoft or exclusively Office 365. It's just everywhere we turn, everybody's using Office 365. Everywhere we're looking at, we see that, but then we're also seeing the platform maturing substantially. And so it's the layer that we're focused on is very much, I think what Microsoft's referring to now is the APaaS layer, so it's that application platform as a service. And that's really PowerApps, PowerBI, and Flow are the three that we're really looking at. In addition to that, what we're trying to do is actually leverage the other just standard capabilities. So Teams is we're using substantially from a collaboration perspective and being able to integrate pieces in. So what I'd like to do is kind of walk through this is a real life client, somebody we're working with, change some of the names and that kind of stuff, so there's some fictitious stuff that's in there. But what I'd like to do is kind of walk through some of our rationale and the way that we're approaching some different things. Hopefully it can be a little bit inspirational, hopefully it can kind of make you think a little bit differently and maybe generate some questions. I'll walk through the app and some of the different things the way that we're approaching it as well. I'm not going to go extremely technical, because so the client we're working with is a financial management. They're a small, medium-sized organization. They're multiple locations, but they have Office 365 using E3, and they have some SharePoint sites currently set up. They're using that. They're using it for some task management, and that's in some a little bit of document management. They still have the shared drive that they're doing quite a bit of. That's their primary location. They're thinking, how do we actually leverage this? They are using Exchange online, but that's kind of where they're at. They have a proprietary financial management system. So it actually does, so for those of you, you can go to your financial manager and they sit down and put together plans to a statement of advice. So they have specialized software that actually pulls all that together, does a lot of merging, does a lot of analytics and those pieces. Fantastic about that. Don't want to recreate that. Don't want to compete with that or anything else. Inside the application, like most purpose-built applications, it provides capability to do document management, task management, managing the emails, storing those types of things. Where they're at is they have all their users have licenses for this platform. The platform is extremely expensive, and so they're asking the question. What we're doing right now is that we're going into this application that is our monolithic, massive application. Everything is in there, and then we're jumping out. So we're putting everything in there, but then we're jumping out to have to manage our emails, manage our appointments. There's task management in there, but there's no work. There's workflow, but it doesn't really move things to the next stage or anything else. What do we do with this type of thing? So our initial conversation, and we actually got brought in as far as the initial conversation to talk about process mapping. And so how do we actually map their process? Through the initial conversation, we just began to start talking about Office 365. You guys are already using that. Have you heard of Power BI? Have you heard of Flow? Yeah, we're dabbling with Power BI, and we're using a little bit of that. Cool, fantastic. Start talking a little bit about Flow, and then all of a sudden they start getting more and more interested. And how can we actually leverage this? And what do we do? So what we positioned was let's do what we call a do and adapt. It's basically just a quick prototype, proof of concept. We really call it pilot. And genuinely, we position it as somewhere between 2 to 5 days typically to be able to get in there and just rapidly go through the concepts. How do we actually go and do this? So the basic things that we were looking at was email calendar management. So this is in the context of a client. So they have a client and they want to manage the emails. They want to manage the calendar events and track that information, documents, and then pipeline task management type of thing. What they had done is they had created a SharePoint list that the advisors had to go into on daily, weekly basis to update the status. It was disconnected from everything else, but they only had that so they could do some Power BI reporting. So it was completely and totally disconnected. The aim was it has to be very easy to use for the advisor. It has to, the associate advisors and their support officers, client support officers. And let's utilize existing systems. Okay, tick. We're there with Office 365. So the question is, why Office 365 in this? And this is kind of part of the sales cycle, or part of the, let's get you across the line and working with it. They already owned it. No additional licenses, no implementation. We had 0 implementation as far as that. So we could, day one, we could start working with stuff. They live in Outlook, Word, Excel, PowerPoint. They're comfortable with it. They know it. They live in it. It does more than they realize, and that's where we began to talk more about it. It goes beyond Microsoft and in Office 365. It works with Salesforce. It works with it connects to a lot of these other SaaS solutions, and it's increasing on a regular basis. And it's positioned towards that business user. It is a bit of the advanced business user, but it's that business user can actually get up to speed and start using it. Somebody that's comfortable with Excel and it can start working with it pretty quickly. So we kicked off with it, do and adapt. These are the basic apps that we kind of pulled together. So Mail, Outlook, Flow, SharePoint, PowerApps, Power BI, and Teams. The way we use SharePoint in this case was that they had their client app, so they're centralized, their main application. So we had an extract of that data, so the client master data. So rather than just spinning up a SQL Server or anything else, we just simply threw it into a SharePoint list, just as a temporary place to actually work with, and we were able to get up and running extremely quickly with that. And that's the main reason why we were using SharePoint for that data. Also using SharePoint to track some documents and a few other things. So did a rapid design. This is literally based the way that we did it on the whiteboard, just kind of walking stuff up, talking through it extremely quickly, validating, okay, this is what we're thinking. We then did a little bit more, just made it a little nicer. The basic flow that we're looking at, so one of the issues they were running into was their advisors would get emails from a client. The clients, and it was tasks that need to be accomplished. Well, the advisor has a team that actually supports them that really does most of the work. But the advisors they could upload the email into this centralized system, their core system, but it's cumbersome, and they don't like doing it. There's a plugin for Outlook to do it, but it's still cumbersome. So what would end up happening is the email would be locked away in the advisor's inbox. And so the team that's supposed to be sorting them don't know that they actually need to do this until it's later, so they're not getting that information. So one of our tasks was, and concepts was, how do we actually make that easier? So the approach that we took was we created a simple, I'll walk you through it, we created a simple Power App. Actually, we didn't do Power App in this case. What we did is we created a flow that triggers off of the advisor flagging an email. So all they have to do is on their phone, swipe left to the email. That triggers the flow that then takes the email, breaks it apart into all its little components, and puts that into a SharePoint list. Adds all the attachments into an additional document library with the relationship in there, and then that's represented to the users within a Power App. So they can literally just simply go in there, and I'll walk you through that. They can literally just go in there and go through the items. They can tick it. That will save it off. The one limitation we have, and this is a request, so if you go to the user voice on PowerApps or on PowerApps or Flow, is the ability to actually save the email as an EML or an MSG file to a SharePoint library. That's the one limitation that we have at this point, so we can't actually do that. We're looking at some other alternatives. Outside of that, this gave us the capability to actually save the email, track it. But what they wanted to do with the email, it wasn't just, there's a compliance element of saving the email, but all the tasks that they needed to do were really coming through the body of the email. So what this allowed them to do is to bring it up and then create a task from there. So that's what we were looking at. And we call that email triage. So that's what they're really doing. Basic, this is simple screen of creating a task. Then we also looked at how can we leverage this data that we're actually starting to pull together. Let's throw together some Power BI stuff. So this is proof of concept, functioning, working, provided some portfolio information that we didn't realize they actually didn't even have. They didn't have it put together in the way that we had it. Just did some quick analysis on their data, threw together a Power App or a Power BI, and presented that. So that's basically what we did. Let me just jump into PowerApps real quick. How many people have actually used PowerApps? A few. Okay, so not everybody's. I was thinking that everybody's going to say, "Oh, why would you do that?" Oops, I lost my.
Just Windows P.
Try that. There we go. Cool. Sorry about that. All right, so this is PowerApps. PowerApps, ooh, it's a little funky looking, but that's all right. PowerApps gives you have the ability, so you can do it in the browser, and this is actually running from the browser, or you can have the studio that runs as a desktop app. Yeah, so we'll leave there. What this is just a simple mobile app. We designed it as a mobile app. Love for PowerApps to be able to do responsive design. It doesn't do that right now. Hopefully in the future that will come. So we've kind of opted for, let's create a mobile app design. We can display this in a browser, and what we're actually doing is we're displaying it in Teams. So we'll show you how we did that as well. This is so I'll just run through the app just quickly. So this is just in play mode. This big kind of ugly bar chart is actually that's a Power BI tile that's actually embedded in the Power App. What this has done is it's taking real data that's actually breaking it down into different stages. The stages are actually down here. You can't really read them. These are the pipeline stages, and so these are the number of clients that are actually in the different stages that they have. But so what we want to demonstrate is the ability to actually pull in your Power BI data into your app. So this same data works on my phone exactly the same way. So I'm not a liar. It's all there, and so you have the access in getting there.
Authentication from the app through to Power BI, using the context of the user that's logged into.
It's using the context of the user. That's exactly right. So since you asked the question, we're not actually using Power BI Pro in this case. So we're actually just using the free Power BI as a demo. But because I'm logged in as the user and it's in my workspace, I'm able to do that. It will work if you share the dashboard with other users. They'll be able to actually access it as well. They have to have access to the data as well as to the dashboard. So you do have to think about some of those pieces within there. What we wanted to demonstrate, though, is the ability that we can actually do this. And so it actually, what we recognize is the advisors, they just need some simple information to be able to actually do some different things, and so to be able to show them bits of information. So they can go into my view. I'm just going to go into the advisors. So the advisors is just a list of their advisors. This is actually pulling the profile picture from SharePoint, or actually from Office 365. So whatever they've uploaded, this is actually pulling it. So it's an opportunity to personalize it a little bit. Just created a little PNG mask that made the circle around it, so it comes in as a square, as a rectangle. Just made a little bit covering that. But then this is just a quick snapshot, be able to create tiles. So those of you who are using PowerApps, one of the cool tips or tricks, I wasn't aware of it till just a few weeks ago, is the ability to put columns in the galleries. And so I always thought there was just a single row in the galleries. With the gallery, you can put multiple columns, which gives you the ability to give this card view type of a thing. So it actually works quite well within that. But then being able to drill into a particular advisor, so giving a bit of a dashboard. So I'm not seeing anything here because there's actually zero leads in there, and it's defaulting to the leads. But this is giving just a quick view and breakdown of the clients that are actually in the different stages of for the user. And if those of you notice Ron Burgundy up there, he's our test user. So by going into Ron Burgundy, I can basically I can drill in and go to his, get the client information. So this is pulling real data At this point, it's pulling from SharePoint, so this list that we created in SharePoint. The architecture that they're moving to and what we're helping them look at is the ability to take the data from the proprietary system and working with a middle data tier layer to actually do it synchronization. So they'll actually have that in a SQL Server environment. So we'll be able to actually access that directly. So the client information will be coming from that SQL environment, and we'll be able to create that relationship. What we're demonstrating as well is we're pulling this data from multiple data sources, and so it's all being brought together within the same environment. And so that was a nice add. So when I talked about being able to go through the emails, so by swiping left, it basically will take the emails into a triage space like this. So obviously I've sent the same email a few times. I'm not testing for duplicates, but it is a demo. Then they can go in and actually triage and go through. I won't go through that at this point. When they're done with it, they can just tick the box, goes away, and it'll store that. We can identify history. So basically this acts as a log for them as well. So that's one of the issues that they're having. How do we track phone calls? How do we track emails? How do we do those types of things? And this is a way to actually be able to show the history. So the way we go through and do that is we created just a simple task. And this is just a simple form that's being created. What we've done is, so we're just using a standard form from PowerApps. So this actually allows you, so you can connect to a data source and then choose a form. And then it basically creates all the connections for you. So you don't have to do all of the read-write activity. It manages that for you. All you need to do is the form. Basically, it's the new form is the function. And you pass the form name in there, and it creates this form for you. Some of the newer features in PowerApps gives the ability to create columns. So the layout and the formatting is much better than it used to be. So I can create basically 2 columns. I can choose which items or which fields actually span across the. So it gives some reasonably decent layout that's in there. What I'm also doing is being able to use properties to hide and show different fields. So when I choose note, I can hide the other fields. Same form, haven't changed the form or anything else. It's just simply changing the property within there. So here I can just simply add it in, click save, they'll do that. For a phone, what we've done is we basically have if I click on this, especially for my phone, it'll launch the phone number, so it'll actually make the call. So it gives the ability to go directly to that, which is just a bonus feature that they have. Oh no! Oh, I clicked on it and I don't want to use Skype. It's all right. Go back. Again, same thing with email, and then with meetings. So one of the cool things we're testing out, we're just kind of experimenting with email. With meetings, is the ability to use new service, beta preview service called calendar.help. So it's Cortana. And so what we do here, I won't launch it from there, but I will go into the email and just kind of show you what's actually going on. So Cortana has basically gone off. It's here. So Cortana, I set this up earlier, sent an email to Cortana. So all you have to do is, the original email said, let's get there.
Maybe zoom in a little bit.
That help? All right, so basically I sent the original email, basically said, Ron, we want to set up a meeting, and then I'm going to have Cortana set this up for us. Then I just simply said, Cortana, can you please set up a 30-minute meeting with Ron sometime during the week of the 5th of, I think it said the 5th of September. What Cortana did is she looked at my calendar to see what availability is actually there, then sent this to Ron as these are the options. As Ron, what I can do in there is I can actually, in my other email account, I can respond to that and say, I'll take the Monday appointment. it will then contact me as the advisor, put it in my calendar, and then send the calendar invite to Ron. Manages it all. Ron doesn't have to go to a website or anything else around that. So it's pretty cool technology. It's all just using artificial intelligence, and so it's something we're experimenting with and playing. Fits into their case and the scenario perfectly within that. So something probably worth investigating. So that's basically the app. So if I were to go back to the home, we've got just a simple search that's in there. So if you want to do Burgundy, it will come up. There it is. Do Burgundy, again, it'll do the searching. So just kind of demonstrating the ability to do that. So why is this kind of, who cares? That's a mobile app. That's not that big of a deal within there. We did this in 3 days, and so the ability to actually work with the client to actually, and this is probably version 3 of what we did, and we went down a completely different pathway, changed as we were meeting with them on a regular basis and worked that through. But what this gave us the ability to do is, instead of, this is typically what we would do in that almost the same time frame, is what we would do is creating wireframes. And so we would do the wireframing and then kind of work with them to say, okay, this is what it would do and the concept and so forth. This actually gives us the ability to put together an application. This is not far from actually being able to roll out, because it's in the 365 environment. It's already robust. It's already got the key things. There's definitely work. There's a lot of testing and different things that's there, but it's basically a functioning app that gives them the ability to work within that. We then took it and looking at, so how do you leverage and start working collaboratively. So again, one of the issues is collaboration. That's where we started looking at teams and bringing that in. Our initial assumption was everything was geared around their clients. So we were looking at using teams for each a team for each client. Concept was there, but the administration of it became unwielding, and it wasn't a right fit. Backed away from that, and then we're looking at, okay, let's leverage teams, because everything is geared around the advisor, so we'll build the teams around the advisor. So we haven't taken this to its full extent, but what we were able to do is basically setting up a couple channels. We have channels for clients, so in there, under files, I've only got Ron Burgundy, but basically all the client folders would be sitting under here, and this gives them the ability to have their documents directly there. What's really good about this, though, is because it's a SharePoint document library, you can use OneDrive for Business and sync the library to the local drive. So then gives them the ability to just simply drag and drop files into the folder. They can do it as save as, and it lets them work the way that they are used to working with their shared drives. Huge benefit. The other great thing is with the coming release of the new the OneDrive client, is that it will allow you to see all the documents that are up in the cloud. You don't have to sync them all, and so with the next rollout of Windows 10, it'll come up, and that's fantastic. We've also done is, so within the tabs, I don't know if you're that familiar with Teams, but within Teams, you can create tabs and set different bits, different applications, or different views within there. Fantastic for creating collaboration spaces that are in context of what the clients or what people are actually working on. So you see here, we've actually gone to the same app. So you can use the app in the browser, and Teams works the same way. But if you notice, it didn't go to that landing page that had that kind of ugly bar chart on it. It went straight to the advisor's page, because what we've done is we've actually, so I can look at the different things. When we added the tab in here, just a little trick. So in settings, so instead of, there is an option to set up a Power App. So you can so one of the tabs is actually just create a Power App, and so you just select the Power App from your list. What we did instead is we actually did it as a website. And what that gave us the ability to do was to be able to pass in this last little query string. So we've got, so I'll make it a little bit bigger for you. Let's see. So we basically just have, after the URL, kind of ugly URL. In order to get the URL, so you need to go to the In PowerApps, you go to the details area in PowerApps, and there's a URL that you can use to get that. So you just copy that URL and work with that. What we then did is added just simply a query string at the end. So it's just A equals the advisor name. In PowerApps, what we can do then is, and I'll go back in there and just show you. In PowerApps, when it loads, so on start, all I'm doing is, I don't know if this will, yeah, it will. All I'm doing is setting the advisor, so this set is actually setting a variable. It's a global variable. So I'm just setting this variable equal to the param. So the param is looking for the query string, so the object in the query string. So I can pass different values through the query string, so it actually allows me to set the context. So I can have one application that can be used in multiple contexts. So that's basically what we're doing here. So in here, basically passing that in, bring that back down to normal size. And then what that does is it brings us straight into this advisor screen. So I just have, if the parameter, if that global variable is set to a value, go directly to the advisor screen. And so it gives the ability for them to actually cluster and do their work around their context without having to jump around. So it's leveraging bits around that. The other bit, again, nothing flash. But being able to put some Power BI visuals within that team environment. So again, this is in the context of what they're actually working with, and so they can actually stay and work and focus on that directly. But that's basically what we've done within there. What it's allowed us to do is, in a very short period of time, so when I said it's a total 5 days, 5 days of effort, that was over a period of 2 weeks. So there's a little bit we had to work around their schedule as far as that's concerned. But able to move extremely quickly with a few sessions to be able to talk them through this. Again, one of the requirements from the outset was not to create a mobile application. They weren't even thinking about a mobile application. We basically put this together, and all of a sudden the conversation changed. And now they're actually saying, oh, this is brilliant, because this will actually allow our advisors to do the work the way that they want to. So what they end up doing is they do their emails at home, and it's very cumbersome to have to VPN in, to connect, and to do everything that they need to. So they typically don't, and they'll just do it kind of on the side, and so it's not in that environment. This gives them the ability, they can do it if they're on the train or wherever they are, they can actually do it on the phone. And so now the view is, okay, now how do we actually tailor this to deliver mobile applications that are context specific for each of the different roles, but leveraging off and pulling in that same information. And so that's basically where we're at. I recognize that I'm standing between you and beer and pizza, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. If there's any questions, happy to field any questions or walk through anything that's in there. But hopefully there's a little bit of inspiration or a little bit of thoughts that can take things along. Is pizza here, or do I need to install some more? Okay, cool. Cool. Thanks, guys.